Ava had always lived a life meticulously planned. At 28, she had achieved everything she thought she wanted: a successful career in marketing, a cozy apartment in the city, and a circle of loyal friends. Yet, there was a void, a yearning she couldn't name, a blank space in her heart that longed for something extraordinary. Love, she had convinced herself, was a dangerous distraction. She was cautious, pragmatic, and disciplined. On a stormy Thursday evening, Ava hurried through the pouring rain, her umbrella doing little to shield her from the downpour. She was late for a meeting with a client and had taken an unfamiliar route home, hoping to cut time. But the streets were slick, and puddles reflected the neon signs in distorted colors. That's when she saw the small, quaint cafe tucked into the corner of a narrow lane. The warm golden light spilling through the windows was inviting, almost magnetic. Exhausted and drenched, she stepped inside. The cafe smelled of fresh coffee and pastries, comforting in its familiarity. A few patrons chatted quietly over steaming mugs, while the barista hummed softly behind the counter. Ava shook off the rain, taking a moment to breathe. That's when her gaze fell upon a man seated alone by the window. He was reading a book. His posture relaxed, but with an air of intensity that made him seem almost untouchable. Daniel. That was his name. He looked up at the moment their eyes met, and Ava felt an unexpected jolt run through her body, a mixture of curiosity and something dangerously like desire. There was something magnetic about him, something that drew her in despite her own rules. His eyes were dark, thoughtful, and carried the weight of someone who had experienced life's harsh truths. Ava approached the counter to order her coffee, only to find that Daniel had already noticed her hesitation. "You look like you've had a long day," he said softly, his voice deep and calm. There was an undeniable warmth in his tone, but also a subtle undertone of something secretive, almost forbidden. Yes, I guess I have," Ava replied, unsure why she felt compelled to speak to him. Daniel smiled faintly. "May I?" He gestured to the empty seat across from him. Ava hesitated. She had promised herself she wouldn't get involved with strangers, especially not mysterious strangers who made her heart race. Yet, something about him felt familiar, as if their souls had brushed before, leaving an unspoken connection. Against her better judgment, she sat down. Their conversation began casually: books, coffee, and the weather, but slowly it shifted. Daniel's words revealed layers of complexity. He spoke of loneliness, of dreams deferred, and of a life that felt incomplete. Ava found herself captivated, hanging on to every word. She felt an odd mix of comfort and tension, drawn into a world she had long kept at a distance. Then, unexpectedly, he spoke the words that should have ended everything. "I'm married," Daniel said, his voice tinged with a vulnerability that was almost painful. The words hit Ava like a lightning bolt. Married. The temptation, the forbidden allure, the dangerous thrill, it all surged within her simultaneously. She wanted to leave, to retreat into her orderly life, yet she found herself unable to move. Daniel continued, his eyes searching hers, silently pleading for understanding. "It's not what it seems. My marriage, it's complicated. I'm trapped, but I can't ignore the emptiness." Ava's mind raced. She had heard of complicated marriages, of love lost to duty, but this was different. There was an authenticity in Daniel's voice, an ache that mirrored her own hidden yearning. Her heart betrayed her logic, responding to his vulnerability. Arachnids of suspense wove themselves into the conversation: the cafe's hum, the rain against the windows, the subtle brush of hands as they reached for their coffees simultaneously. Time seemed to warp. An hour passed in what felt like minutes. Every glance, every word, Every subtle gesture amplified the tension. And Ava felt the first stirrings of dangerous attraction. When Ava finally stood to leave, Daniel's hand brushed hers. The contact was brief, almost imperceptible, yet electric. It sent a shiver down her spine, leaving her trembling and conflicted. As she stepped out into the rain, the storm seemed to mirror her inner turmoil, chaotic, intense, and impossible to ignore. That night, Ava lay awake, her mind replaying every detail: the curve of Daniel's smile, the intensity in his eyes, the soft tremor in his voice. She knew she was stepping into forbidden territory, yet she couldn't resist the pull. The hook had been set. The suspense was established. The audience would feel it too, the thrill of the forbidden, the lure of an impossible love. Little did Ava know, this was only the beginning. The stormy encounter had set in motion a chain of events that would challenge everything she believed about love, morality, and the choices of the heart. By the next act, the audience would be hooked, desperate to see what dangers and passions await her. Ava stared at her phone, the screen glowing in the dim light of her apartment. The message from Daniel was simple, yet it sent a cascade of emotions through her: excitement, fear, curiosity, and a thrill she couldn't name. "I can't stop thinking about you. Can we meet?" Her heart raced as she debated whether to reply. Every rational thought screamed, "Don't do it." He was married. The consequences could destroy lives, including hers. Yet, another voice, quieter but irresistible, whispered that this was the chance she had been waiting for, the chance for passion, connection, and love that she hadn't known existed in her carefully controlled life. Finally, she typed back, "Where?" The reply was almost instant. "The same cafe. 1 hour. Just us." As she arrived, the rain had softened into a gentle drizzle, painting the city streets with reflections of neon lights. Her pulse quickened at the thought of seeing him again. Inside, Daniel was already there, sitting at their corner table. His expression was tense, aware, and yet vulnerable. When he saw her, his lips curved into a soft smile, and Ava felt the familiar pull in her chest. This was dangerous, she reminded herself. Yet, danger had never felt so intoxicating. "Good to see you," Daniel said, his voice carrying the weight of unspoken emotions. "You too," Ava murmured, taking the seat across from him. There was a pause, a silence charged with unvoiced thoughts. The cafe's warm atmosphere contrasted sharply with the stormy tension between them. Their eyes met, and in that instant, the world seemed to shrink to just the two of them. Daniel leaned forward slightly. "I shouldn't be here," he said, the words barely above a whisper. "I shouldn't even be talking to you like this, but I can't help it." Ava's breath caught. His honesty, his vulnerability, made her heart ache. She reached for her coffee, her fingers brushing against his briefly. The spark was immediate, undeniable. "I feel the same," she admitted softly. "I know it's wrong, but I can't ignore this either." The conversation shifted then, from casual to deeply personal. Daniel shared fragments of his life, the loneliness hidden behind a perfect marriage, the suffocating expectations, and the secret longing for someone who could see him truly. Ava shared her own vulnerabilities, the emptiness she often masked with ambition and routine. As the hours passed, the connection deepened. Every glance, every slight touch, every shared laugh wove a web of intimacy. The forbidden nature of their attraction heightened the tension, creating a cocktail of excitement and danger that neither could resist. Outside, the rain began to fall harder, drumming against the windows in rhythm with Ava's racing heart. Inside, the cafe became their world, a cocoon where rules and responsibilities seemed distant and irrelevant. Then came the moment that changed everything. Daniel reached across the table, his hand hovering over hers. The contact was electric when they finally touched. Fingers intertwined, their eyes locked, and for a fleeting second, the rest of the world vanished. "I shouldn't," Daniel started, but Ava silenced him with a soft, urgent look. "I don't care," she whispered. "Not right now, just be with me." The intensity between them escalated. Their lips brushed tentatively at first, testing boundaries, then pressed together in a kiss that was both desperate and tender. It was a kiss that spoke of longing, desire, and the danger that made it all the more thrilling. Ava felt herself trembling, caught between passion and fear, yet unable to pull away. As the kiss deepened, a subtle tension lingered, Daniel's wedding ring glinting under the cafe lights. A stark reminder of the life he was supposed to uphold. But in this stolen moment, nothing else mattered. Time slowed, emotions surged, and the connection between them became almost tangible. When they finally pulled back, breathless, their foreheads rested together, sharing the warmth and electricity of the moment. "I've wanted this for so long," Daniel admitted, his voice raw with emotion. Ava's heart ached with the knowledge of the forbidden love unfolding, yet it beat wildly with exhilaration. "Me too," she whispered. The remainder of the afternoon was spent in a mix of conversation and subtle touches, hands brushing, shoulders touching, stolen smiles. Every second was a delicate dance between desire and restraint, each glance loaded with unspoken words. The cafe's ambience, the warm lights, the gentle chatter, the rain outside added layers to the tension, making the connection feel almost cinematic. As Ava left the cafe, the thrill of the encounter lingered. The storm outside mirrored her inner turmoil, chaotic, intense, and impossible to ignore. She knew she was stepping into dangerous territory, yet she couldn't resist. That night, sleep eluded her. Her mind replayed the day's moments, the brush of hands, the taste of his lips, the warmth of his presence. She felt alive in a way she hadn't for years, yet the looming shadow of his marriage created an ache that was almost unbearable. Daniel, too, was restless. His thoughts swirled around Ava's forbidden kiss, the spark that had ignited, and the guilt that gnawed at him. He knew he couldn't stop thinking about her, couldn't ignore the feelings that were both thrilling and destructive. Then, just as the night deepened, a new message arrived. This one was cryptic. "Meet me tomorrow, somewhere private." The words sent a shiver down Ava's spine. She felt the excitement of anticipation mixed with the dread of the unknown. What would happen next? Was this the start of a love that defied all odds, or the beginning of a dangerous spiral she couldn't escape? The suspense was thick, the romance was undeniable, and the emotional stakes had never been higher. The audience, now fully hooked, would feel every pulse, every breath, and every heartbeat along with Ava. As Act 2 closes, the tension reaches a peak. Ava stands at the threshold of a decision that could change her life forever. The forbidden romance deepens, the suspense intensifies, and the audience is left eagerly anticipating what awaits in the next act. Danger, passion, and heartbreak intertwined. The morning sun filtered weakly through the blinds, casting faint patterns across Ava's bedroom floor. Her mind was still racing from last night's events. Daniel's cryptic message, those stolen moments in the cafe, had left her restless. Every nerve in her body buzzed with anticipation and fear. She wasn't sure if she wanted the answers or if she was terrified of them. Her hand trembled as she picked up the small, neatly wrapped package that had arrived at her door. There was no return address. Only her name, written in a careful, almost familiar handwriting. Her pulse quickened as she untied the ribbon and lifted the lid. Inside, a single folded envelope awaited her. The envelope contained a handwritten note. "Ava, there are things you don't know about me. Things that could change everything between us. Meet me at the old pier tonight. I need you to understand before it's too late. The old pier had always been a place of solitude, where the world felt distant and time slowed. It was a place that carried memories for Daniel, memories he hadn't shared yet. The note was urgent, pleading, and mysterious all at once. Throughout the day, Ava was restless. Her thoughts oscillated between curiosity and fear. What secrets could he possibly be hiding? Why now, and why like this? Her friends noticed her distraction, her distracted smiles and lingering gazes at her phone, but she brushed off their concern. She couldn't tell anyone, not yet. By evening, the sky was painted in streaks of orange and violet. The city buzzed with its usual rhythm, but Ava felt detached, focused entirely on the looming meeting. She drove with her hands gripping the wheel tighter than usual, each red light feeling like an eternity. The pier was deserted, shrouded in mist from the water below. The sound of gentle waves lapping against the wooden posts added an eerie undertone to the scene. Ava stepped out of her car, her heels clicking against the damp boards. The atmosphere was tense, electric. Daniel was already there, leaning against a lamppost, his face partially obscured by shadows. The moment he saw her, his eyes softened, but there was an unmistakable tension in his jaw. "Ava," he began, voice low and laden with emotion. "I'm glad you came. I had to," she replied, trying to steady her breath. "What's going on, Daniel? What secrets are you hiding from me?" He ran a hand through his hair, pacing slightly. "It's complicated, more than I can explain in words. But I need you to know everything. You deserve to know who I really am." He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a small, worn notebook. This is my life before everything. Before my marriage, before the walls I built. And it's filled with mistakes, choices I regret, and people I hurt. But you make me want to be better. I can't lie to you anymore." Ava's eyes widened as she glanced at the notebook. The weight of his confession pressed down on her chest. She felt a mixture of sympathy, anger, and longing. The man she had fallen for was not the whole truth she thought she knew, but perhaps he was more real than anyone else in her life. "Why now?" she asked softly, almost a whisper. "Why tell me now?" Daniel stepped closer, lowering his voice to a tremulous whisper. "Because I can't stand another day without you knowing. I can't live a life where you don't see the real me. I love you, Ava, and I can't lie about that, no matter what it costs me." Her heart clenched. The raw honesty in his words, the vulnerability he revealed, it was intoxicating. Ava felt a tear slip down her cheek. She wanted to run, to leave before it got too deep, too real. And yet, every fiber of her being wanted to stay, to lean into the danger, to explore the passion and connection that had grown between them. Before she could respond, he took her hand, entwining their fingers. The simple touch sent sparks racing through her body. His other hand brushed her cheek, wiping away the tear. "I don't want to lose you, Ava. Not now, not ever." The tension escalated as their lips drew closer. This time, it was more than a cafe kiss, it was desperate, consuming, a kiss that spoke of suppressed desire and undeniable love. Ava's body trembled as the kiss deepened, the forbidden nature of their connection amplifying every sensation. But just as they pulled away, a sudden noise broke the intimacy, a faint crunch of gravel behind them. Both froze, turning toward the source. A shadowy figure emerged from the mist, barely visible under the dim lamp-post light. "Daniel," Ava whispered, fear mingling with adrenaline. The figure stepped closer, and Ava's heart dropped. It was his wife, Emma. Her eyes narrowed, filled with a mix of suspicion and fury. "Daniel," she said, voice icy, What the hell is going on here? Time seemed to stop. The emotional intensity, the romantic tension, the suspense all collided in a single moment. Daniel's grip on Ava tightened, protective yet fearful. Ava's mind raced. She could feel the emotional stakes soar. This was the point where secrets collided with reality. The tension was unbearable, yet intoxicating. "Get away from her," Daniel said, his voice low and threatening, yet tinged with desperation. "You don't understand, this is real. She's not just someone I'm tempted by. She's everything I didn't know I was missing." Emma's face hardened. Ava felt a rush of conflicting emotions: anger, guilt, longing, and desire. The romantic tension with Daniel clashed violently with the reality of his existing life. Yet, she couldn't deny the love she felt growing in her chest, the connection that had entwined her heart with his. As the confrontation escalated, Daniel's words broke through the tension. "I have to choose, Ava. I have to be honest. I can't live a lie anymore. And I can't lose you. Not after everything we've shared." Ava's eyes welled up with tears, emotions spilling over. This was more than romance, it was about truth, loyalty, love, and the consequences of choices made too late. The suspense was tangible, gripping the audience, leaving them breathless and eager to see what decision would be made next. Finally, with a deep, shuddering breath, Daniel turned to Emma. "I can't do this anymore. I'm leaving. It ends tonight." Emma's fury erupted into a scream, but it was cut short as Daniel stepped protectively in front of Ava. He held her close, shielding her, and for a moment, the chaos outside seemed distant. The romance, the passion, the danger all converged in that embrace. Ava felt her heart swell, emotions crashing like waves against a cliff. This was love, raw and unfiltered, tested by lies, secrecy, and societal boundaries. And yet, it was undeniable, intoxicating, and impossible to resist. As Act 3 closes, the audience is left on the edge of their seats. Suspense has reached a fever pitch, romance has deepened, and emotional stakes are higher than ever. Ava and Daniel's journey has crossed into uncharted territory. And the question looms: can love survive when confronted with truth, jealousy, and the remnants of a past life? The mist clung to the pier like a silken veil, swallowing the distant lights and muffling the city sounds. Ava's hand trembled slightly in Daniel's grip, though she tried to mask it with a confident smile. The cold night air brushed against her skin, but her mind was hotter with anticipation and fear. She couldn't shake the echo of Emma's shout, harsh and angry, reverberating in her ears. Each step away from the pier felt heavier, as though the fog itself resisted their escape. Daniel noticed the tension in her fingers. He squeezed her hand gently, letting her feel the warmth of his touch. "It's okay," he whispered, his voice low, filled with the quiet certainty that only he could offer. "We're together. That's all that matters right now." Ava swallowed, the knot in her throat tightening. But something in Daniel's flicker of vulnerability, a trace of fear made her pulse quicken. She realized, almost too late, that her feelings for him weren't just about attraction anymore. They were about survival, about connection, about the desperate need to be seen by someone who mattered. The romantic pull was intense, overwhelming, undeniable. They walked in silence for a while, letting the sound of their footsteps on the wet pavement echo against the buildings. Then Daniel's voice cut through the quiet. "There's something I haven't told you," he said, pausing as if measuring every word, "about Emma. About what happened before tonight." Ava's heartbeat quickened. "What do you mean?" she asked, though a part of her already feared the answer. Daniel stopped walking. He turned to her, his face shadowed but serious. "Emma. She's not just an old friend. She knows things about me, things that could destroy everything. She's dangerous, Ava, and I think tonight, she realized how much she can hurt me. And maybe even you." A shiver ran down Ava's spine. The romantic tension between them was palpable, but fear gnawed at the edges, threatening to break through. Her instinct screamed to run, yet her heart refused. There was something magnetic about Daniel, something that made her stay, made her lean into the danger instead of away from it. They continued walking, their shadows stretching long and distorted in the flickering streetlights. The city felt abandoned, as if it too was holding its breath, waiting for what would come next. Daniel led her down a narrow alleyway, its walls damp and claustrophobic. The tension built with every step. Ava's mind raced. Who was that figure from before? The one watching from the pier. What did they want from Daniel? And why did her stomach twist with a strange mixture of fear and excitement whenever she looked at him? Finally, they reached an old building, its brick facade crumbling but sturdy enough to offer temporary refuge. Daniel pulled a set of keys from his pocket, opened the door, and gestured for Ava to enter. She hesitated, glancing back at the mist-covered streets, but curiosity, adrenaline, and the undeniable pull of their connection pushed her forward. Inside, the room was dimly lit, the glow of a single lamp casting long shadows across the walls. The air smelled faintly of old books and leather, a strange comfort in the midst of chaos. Daniel closed the door behind them, then turned to face her fully. His expression was a mix of relief and tension. "You need to know the truth," he said, stepping closer. "Emma, she's not just obsessed with me. She's obsessed with control. And there's someone else, someone who has been manipulating her, guiding her actions. I don't know who they are yet, but I can feel it. And I think tonight, they're going to make their move." Ava's breath caught. The romantic tension between them shifted, becoming urgent, electric. She could feel the closeness, the heat radiating from his body, and the scent of hymnwood, sweat, something uniquely Daniel. Made her knees weak. But she had to focus. "We can face them together," she said, trying to inject strength into her trembling voice. Daniel nodded, but his eyes were distant, scanning the shadows as if the walls themselves were listening. Then, without warning, he reached for her, pulling her close. Their bodies pressed together, the heat between them undeniable. Ava's heart raced, a mix of fear, excitement, and a deep, growing desire. He tilted his head, brushing his lips against hers in a kiss that was sudden, hungry, and impossibly intimate. The kiss was electric, igniting every nerve in Ava's body. Her fingers tangled in his hair, pulling him closer, and she felt the pulse of his heartbeat against her chest. The world outside, the danger, the mysterious watcher, Emma's threats seemed to disappear. In that moment, there was only the two of them, lost in the gravity of their connection. When they finally broke apart, gasping, Daniel rested his forehead against hers. "We have to be careful," he whispered, his voice husky with emotion. "But I can't lie to you. I've wanted this, wanted you, for so long. And now, I can't imagine letting go." Ava's eyes glistened with emotion. She had felt love before, fleeting, shallow, but this was different. This was deep, consuming, terrifying, and exhilarating all at once. She nodded, tears threatening to spill, but instead letting a small, shaky smile break through. "Then we face this together," she said softly. Their moment of intimacy was interrupted by a sudden noise, a faint creak from the upper floor. Daniel tensed, his hands still holding hers. "Someone's here," he muttered, moving to the corner of the room. Ava's heart leaped into her throat. The suspense ratcheted higher. They listened as footsteps grew louder, deliberate, purposeful. Then a shadow fell across the doorway. Ava gasped, recognizing the figure instantly. Emma. But she wasn't alone. Another silhouette emerged behind her, a tall, imposing presence that radiated menace and control. Ava's pulse quickened. Daniel stepped in front of her, protective and resolute. "Who are you?" he demanded, his voice steady despite the tension. Emma smirked, her eyes glittering with malice. "You don't know me, Daniel," she said, her tone icy. "But you will. And you'll wish you never brought her into this." The second figure stepped forward, revealing a face that made Daniel's jaw tighten. It was someone from his past, a shadow he had hoped never to see again. The room's temperature seemed to drop, the air thick with threat. Ava's fingers clenched into fists, yet her heart still raced toward Daniel. "You," Daniel breathed, his voice barely audible. "I should have known you'd be involved." The stranger's lips curved into a slow, chilling smile. "Oh, Daniel. It's only just beginning." Ava felt the weight of the moment, the tension, the danger, the intoxicating pull between her and Daniel. She realized that love wasn't just about tenderness or stolen kisses. It was about standing together in the storm, facing fear, and trusting someone with your life. Daniel's hand found hers again, their fingers intertwining like a silent promise. Ava nodded, drawing strength from the connection. "We fight together," she said, her voice steady now, filled with determination. The figure from Daniel's past stepped closer, shadow stretching across the dimly lit room. The suspense was unbearable. Every breath, every heartbeat seemed amplified. And in that instant, Ava knew whatever came next, whatever danger they faced, their love would be the fire that kept them alive. The scene fades on their locked hands, the silhouettes of the intruders looming. And the tension so thick, it could be cut with a knife. Outside, the mist swirled, hiding secrets, plotting twists, and promising that the night was far from over. The room seemed smaller, the shadows longer, and the air thicker with tension than ever before. Ava's fingers still clutched Daniel's, but her mind was spinning. That figured Daniel's past radiated a quiet menace that made her stomach churn. Every instinct screamed to run, but Daniel's presence anchored her, grounding her in a storm of uncertainty. She realized, with a jolt, that fear and desire were now intertwined. Her heartbeat raced, not just from danger, but from the magnetic pull of Daniel's gaze on hers. Daniel's jaw tightened as he faced the shadowy intruder. His voice, low but unyielding, broke the silence. "Why are you here? After all this time?" His words trailed, heavy with history, unfinished stories, and old wounds. The figure smiled, a slow, chilling curve of lips. "Daniel, you can't escape the past, and neither can she." Their eyes flicked to Ava, a mix of curiosity and veiled threat. "She's fascinating. But how far are you willing to go to protect her?" Ava felt a chill run down her spine, but she refused to step back. "I'm not afraid," she said, her voice steadier than she felt. "I'll face whatever comes, as long as I'm with him." The words surprised even her. Raw and full of vulnerability, yet firm with determination. Daniel's eyes softened, a flash of admiration and relief crossing his face. He pressed a finger gently against her lips. "You have no idea how much that means," he whispered. Then, turning to the intruder, he steeled himself. "I won't let you hurt her. Not now, not ever." The intruder laughed softly, almost mockingly, but it was the kind of laugh that carried cold precision. "You've changed, Daniel, but some games, you never win." Ava's pulse quickened as Daniel took a step closer to her, protective and assertive. Their bodies brushed, and she felt a shiver run down her spine. Despite the danger, despite the looming threat, the chemistry between them was undeniable. Her fingers curled into his shirt, grounding herself in the reality of their connection. Suddenly, Emma's voice cut through the tension like a knife. "Stop playing hero, Daniel. She doesn't belong to you." Her words were venomous, full of obsession, full of desperation. Ava's stomach twisted, but Daniel's grip on her hand didn't waver. He turned slowly to Emma, his voice calm but cold. "She belongs to no one. But I'm not letting anyone use her as a pawn. Do you understand?" Emma's eyes narrowed, rage bubbling beneath the surface. "You think you can protect her from everything? From me? From him?" Her glance flicked to the intruder, whose presence was almost more terrifying than her own. The room seemed to shrink further, the tension palpable, every heartbeat amplified. Ava could feel the romantic electricity between her and Daniel crackling in the confined space. Every brush of his hand, every protective glance, ignited a fire she couldn't contain. Her mind was a swirl of emotions, fear, desire, adrenaline, and an undeniable pull toward him. Daniel stepped closer to Ava, lowering his voice. "Stay close to me. No matter what happens, we face it together." His words wrapped around her like a shield, a promise, a lifeline. She nodded, feeling tears prick the corners of her eyes, not from fear, but from the intensity of feeling seen, wanted, and loved in a moment where danger pressed from every side. The intruder moved silently, almost like a shadow stretching across the floor. Daniel noticed, stepping protectively in front of Ava, his body tense, muscles coiled. "I don't know what you want," Daniel said steadily, "but I won't let you hurt her." The figure's smile widened. "Oh, Daniel, it's not about hurting her. It's about testing her. Testing you both." They circled slowly, measured, predatory. How far will love go when pushed to the edge? When the past collides with the present? When secrets unravel? Ava swallowed hard. The romantic tension between her and Daniel was now intertwined with the suspense. Every glance, every touch, carried weight. The danger outside only magnified their connection. She could feel his warmth, smell his faint scents, something like cedar and leather, and her heart ached with longing. Suddenly, the intruder lunged, fast, precise. Daniel reacted instantly, stepping between Ava and the threat. The moment was a blur of motion, shadows, and adrenaline. Ava's breath caught as she watched him, so strong, so decisive, so impossibly focused. Her heart soared and ached at the same time, a mix of fear and deep, unrelenting desire. They struggled, but Daniel was skilled, trained, and fueled by his need to protect her. Ava wanted to help, but she froze, realizing she didn't need to. His presence was enough. The romantic tension exploded in that small space, charged with danger and raw emotion. Finally, with a swift, calculated move, Daniel disarmed the intruder, forcing them against the wall. Ava's heart pounded in her chest, her pulse synced with his. Daniel's chest rose and fell, his hair slightly disheveled, his eyes burning with intensity. He looked at her, and for a moment, the world outside, the threats, the suspense, the danger he whispered, voice hoarse, eyes softening as he reached for her. Ava stepped forward, closing the distance between them. Their lips met, soft at first, then urgent, desperate, full of the passion and tension that had been building for acts. It wasn't just a kiss, it was a statement, a release, a vow. When they finally broke apart, gasping, Ava rested her forehead against his. "I thought I might lose you," she murmured, voice trembling. Daniel's fingers brushed her cheek, gentle, reassuring. "You won't," he promised. "Not now, not ever. We're in this together." The intruder, watching from the floor, smiled faintly, not defeated, but intrigued. "This isn't over," they whispered, retreating into the shadows. Emma, meanwhile, glared but remained silent. fury and frustration radiating off her. Ava and Daniel held each other, their bodies pressed close, hearts beating in synchrony. The danger wasn't gone, but their bond had deepened, forged in the heat of fear, the intensity of desire, and the rawness of emotion. Every moment, every brush of skin, every whispered word strengthened the invisible tether between them. Outside, the mist swirled, hiding secrets and promises, plotting twists and turns for the next encounter. But inside, in that dimly lit room, love had won a small victory, a moment of peace, passion, and promise amidst the chaos. Ava felt tears slip down her cheeks, but they were tears of relief, of longing fulfilled, of a love that had survived the storm. Daniel kissed her forehead, holding her tightly, as if willing the world to stop for just a moment. The act ended with them standing together, facing the unknown, hearts intertwined, bodies and souls connected. The suspense remained, the danger lurked, but their love unbreakable, fiery, and real had taken center stage. The night outside was dense with mist, the city's lights blurred like distant stars in a foggy sky. Inside the small apartment where Ava and Daniel had taken refuge, the air was thick with tension, lingering adrenaline, and unspoken desire. Every creak of the floorboards, every shadow cast by the dim lamp made Ava's heart race. She knew the intruder's threat was far from over. Every instinct screamed danger, yet she felt an irresistible pull toward Daniel. Their hands still intertwined, she realized how deeply entwined their fates had become. Daniel paced, his jaw tight, every muscle coiled with alertness. His eyes constantly scanned the room, searching for the slightest hint of movement. Ava watched him, her heart swelling with admiration, fear, and longing all at once. "Daniel," she whispered, stepping closer, "we can't keep running forever. We need a plan." He turned to her, his gaze softened by affection, yet sharpened by focus. "I know," he replied, "but first, we need to understand who we're dealing with. The intruder, they're more than just a threat. They know me, and they're testing you, to—" Ava shivered, but not from the cold. She stepped into his embrace, feeling the warmth of his chest, the steady rhythm of his heartbeat. "Then, we face it together," she murmured, her lips brushing against his neck in a fleeting, intimate gesture that made Daniel pause, his arms tightening around her. The sound of a distant door closing echoed in the hallway. Daniel stiffened. "Someone's here," he muttered, moving toward the entrance with a quiet, lethal precision. Ava followed, her pulse quickening, the romantic tension between them igniting in the shadows of fear. The intruder appeared in the doorway, calm, calculated, yet radiating a dangerous intensity. "I warned you," they said, voice smooth but menacing. "The past doesn't stay buried, Daniel. And neither do secrets." Daniel stepped protectively in front of Ava, his hand gripping hers. "I won't let you manipulate her. Not now, not ever." The intruder tilted their head, considering Ava with an unsettling curiosity. "Fascinating," they said softly. "She's not just brave, she's resilient. But bravery comes with a price." Ava's stomach nodded, yet her eyes did not waver from the intruder's. "I'm not afraid," she said, her voice stronger than she felt. "Whatever your games are, I'll face them." With him. Daniel's gaze softened, a silent acknowledgement passing between them. Then, with a determined step, he closed the distance, pressing himself against her, in a protective stance. The romantic tension was almost unbearable. Ava felt the heat of his body, the subtle scent of his cologne, and the undeniable pull of their connection. Their fingers intertwined more tightly, a silent promise against the chaos surrounding them. Suddenly, the intruder moved with lightning speed, circling them, testing, taunting. Ava's breath caught. Daniel reacted instantly, mirroring the intruder's movements, protective, precise, every motion filled with controlled energy and raw emotion. Ava could feel the magnetic tension, the danger heightened the passion, the fear intensified the love. "You don't understand," the intruder whispered, almost seductively. "Love isn't enough to protect her. Not from me. Not from the past you tried to bury." Ava's eyes met Daniel's, and in that instant, words were unnecessary. The fire between them was palpable. She wanted to believe in their bond, to trust it fully, yet the suspense gnawed at her. Every instinct screamed caution. Every heartbeat screamed desire. Daniel's lips brushed hers briefly. A spark, a reassurance, a claim. The kiss was brief but searing, leaving Ava breathless. "Stay with me," he murmured. "No matter what happens." The intruder smiled faintly, almost amused. "You think a kiss will save you? Love is fragile. Love can be exploited." Ava felt a surge of defiance. She stepped closer to Daniel, wrapping her arms around his waist, pressing her body against his. "Love isn't fragile when it's real," she said, voice steady, eyes fierce. "We decide our story, not you, not anyone." The tension in the room reached a boiling point. Daniel moved toward the intruder, his presence a mixture of protective strength and raw passion. Ava followed, her courage growing, fueled by fear, desire, and the unbreakable connection between them. Every glance, every movement was charged with emotion, romance, and suspense. The intruder lunged suddenly, attempting to separate them. Daniel reacted instantly, stepping in front of Ava, their bodies pressed together, a physical shield of love and trust. Ava felt his heartbeat, steady, strong, and reassuring, grounding her in a storm of fear. For a long moment, the room held its breath. Then, with precise controlled movements, Daniel disarmed the intruder, forcing them to retreat. Their eyes filled with calculation rather than defeat. "This isn't over," they hissed, vanishing into the shadows. Ava clung to Daniel, feeling the intensity of the moment, the depth of their bond, and the undeniable heat of their attraction. Her fingers tangled in his hair, pulling him close, her lips brushing his in a kiss that was desperate, passionate, and full of the unspoken emotions that had been building for acts. Daniel responded immediately, his arms wrapping around her, holding her close, tasting the mixture of fear, relief, and desire. Their bodies pressed together, hearts racing, the world outside disappearing in the intensity of the moment. "I won't let them win," Daniel whispered against her lips. "No one will ever come between us." Ava's eyes glistened with tears, a mixture of relief and overwhelming emotion. "Then we fight. Together. Always." The act ended with them standing in the dimly lit room, bodies intertwined, hearts synchronized, eyes locked in a silent vow. Outside, the city continued in its indifferent rhythm, unaware of the storm of suspense, romance, and danger that had just unfolded within those walls. The first rays of dawn barely pierced through the foggy windows of the apartment. Ava and Daniel were still entwined on the worn-out sofa, their bodies aching from the night's chaos, but their hearts beating in unison. There was a fragile calm, but the weight of the intruder's threat lingered in the air, like a storm cloud refusing to break. Daniel's eyes, heavy with fatigue, scanned Ava's face as if memorizing every detail. He ran his fingers through her hair, brushing a stray lock behind her ear, and whispered, "I wish we could just pause time, Ava. Stay here, like this, forever." Ava's lips trembled with a soft smile, her hand resting over his chest. "Forever sounds tempting," she said, her voice a mix of warmth and longing. "But we both know the storm isn't over yet." Suddenly, the faint hum of the city outside was pierced by a knock at the door. Both tensed, instinctively moving closer to each other. Daniel's hand hovered near the doorknob, every muscle coiled like a spring. "Stay behind me," he murmured, eyes narrowing. Ava's pulse raced, but she followed his instructions, feeling the protective shield of his presence. The knock came again, this time more insistent. Daniel opened the door a crack, peering out into the dim hallway. There was no one in sight, only an envelope slipped beneath the door. He bent to pick it up, carefully opening it to reveal a single sheet of paper. Ava watched, heart pounding, as Daniel read the contents aloud. "You think love shields you. Secrets will unravel, and the choices you make tonight will determine who survives. Trust no one." A chill ran down Ava's spine. Daniel's jaw tightened, eyes flicking to hers. "It's a warning, or a challenge." She took his hand, squeezing it tightly. "Then we face it." As the day progressed, the tension escalated. Ava and Daniel knew they had to leave the apartment to investigate the intruder's identity and motives. Every corner of the city seemed tainted with unseen eyes, every passerby potentially a spy. But the closer they walked together, the more undeniable the pull between them became. In the small cafe where they sought temporary refuge, Ava couldn't resist the proximity of Daniel. Their hands brushed across the table, a fleeting contact that sent electric shivers through her body. She looked up at him, her gaze lingering, unspoken words dancing between them. Daniel smiled softly, leaning in. "You know," he whispered, "even in the middle of chaos, I can't stop thinking about you." Ava's cheeks flushed, and she bit her lip to suppress a smile. "I feel the same," she admitted, her voice barely audible, trembling with vulnerability and desire. Their intimate moment was shattered by a sudden message on Daniel's phone, a cryptic video clip showing someone observing Ava from a distance. Her stomach dropped, and Daniel's hand tightened around hers instinctively. The screen displayed nothing more than a shadowy figure, but the threat was undeniable. "Someone's been watching you," Daniel said, his voice a mixture of anger and concern. "We're not safe anywhere." Ava's eyes filled with determination. "Then we fight smarter. We don't run blindly anymore. We strategize, we protect each other, and we make sure nothing comes between us." That evening, they found themselves in Daniel's car, navigating through narrow, fog-laden streets, tracing the origins of the mysterious video. The atmosphere in the car was tense, punctuated by occasional glances, fingers brushing unintentionally, and the unspoken promise of intimacy simmering beneath the surface. Daniel parked near an abandoned warehouse, the location hinted at in the video's metadata. He turned to Ava, his expression serious but tender. "Stay close to me. No matter what happens, I won't let anyone harm you." Ava's heart thumped, not just from fear, but from the closeness, from the raw, magnetic connection she felt with him. "I trust you," she whispered, leaning slightly closer. Inside the warehouse, shadows twisted and danced with the faint light filtering through broken windows. Each step echoed ominously, heightening suspense. They moved cautiously, aware that any misstep could reveal them to the intruder. Suddenly, a metallic clang reverberated through the hall, and Ava instinctively grabbed Daniel's arm. "Did you hear that?" she whispered, her voice tight with anticipation. Daniel nodded, leading her toward the source. They found a room partially concealed by old crates. Inside, papers scattered across the floor revealed Daniel's past files, photographs, and letters, each hinting at secrets long buried. Ava's eyes widened as she realized the depth of what Daniel had been hiding, and yet, despite it, her love for him only deepened. "Why didn't you tell me?" she asked, her voice trembling, a mixture of hurt and concern. Daniel looked at her, his eyes heavy with guilt. "I wanted to protect you." Some truths are dangerous. Some secrets can destroy everything we have. Ava stepped closer, placing her hand over his heart. Then we face them together. Whatever comes, whatever has happened. I'm here. The moment hung in the air, charged with emotion and tension. Their faces drew closer, lips nearly touching, when suddenly, a shadow detached itself from the corner of the room. It was the intruder. Their presence was both terrifying and magnetic, their motives unclear, but their power undeniable. "Ah, you've uncovered the truth," they said smoothly, circling them, like a predator assessing prey. Daniel instinctively moved in front of Ava, protective and resolute. "You won't harm her," he declared, voice firm. The intruder smirked. "Harm? Oh no. I'm here for revelations, for choices, and to see how deep love can really go under pressure." Ava's breath hitched, not from fear alone, but from the intensity of the moment. Every glance, every gesture, every heartbeat was charged with desire, suspense, and emotional gravity. She pressed closer to Daniel, feeling their bond stronger than ever. The intruder took a step back, observing. So, this is the fabled love. Tested by danger, intertwined with secrets. Fascinating, and yet, vulnerable. Ava met the intruder's gaze without flinching. "You underestimate us," she said firmly. "Love isn't fragile. Love doesn't bend easily. And no matter what your threats are, it will protect us." Daniel's hand slid over hers, interlocking fingers, a silent vow of protection, commitment, and passion. Their closeness, even in the face of danger, was a living testament to the power of connection. The intruder's eyes narrowed, intrigued, calculating. "Very well," they said, stepping back into the shadows, "but the game has only begun." As the intruder disappeared, Ava exhaled shakily, her lips brushing Daniel's in a tender, lingering kiss. The intensity, the emotion, the suspense of the day crystallized in that single moment, a mixture of relief, desire, and love. "Whatever comes next," Daniel whispered, his forehead resting against hers, "we face it together." Ava smiled softly, tears threatening to fall. "Together, always." The act ends with them standing in the dim, shadow-filled warehouse, hands intertwined, hearts aligned, facing the unknown with courage, love, and an unbreakable bond. The suspense remains high, the romance deepens, and the audience is left craving the final act, anticipating the culmination of secrets, passion, and ultimate resolution. A faint creak echoes in the distance, a new threat, one more dangerous than before. The intruder's voice whispers from the shadows, barely audible. "You think you've won. The real truth is about to be revealed, and no one will escape unscathed." The warehouse lay in almost complete darkness, broken only by the faint glow of the streetlights filtering through the cracks in the boarded windows. Ava and Daniel stood together, their hands tightly clasped, hearts pounding. The air was thick with anticipation, every creak, every shadow felt alive, like the world itself was holding its breath. Daniel's jaw was set, eyes scanning the dim room, every muscle coiled and ready. "Stay close to me," he whispered, his voice a mixture of caution and reassurance. "No matter what happens, I won't let anything touch you." Ava nodded, feeling the warmth of his hand through hers. She drew strength from his presence, the connection between them unbreakable, despite the danger surrounding them. The warehouse suddenly felt like a battlefield, a place where secrets and truth were about to collide. From the shadows, the intruder emerged. This time, their presence was unmistakable, tall, composed, and exuding a cold, calculated menace. "So, you've survived the night," the intruder said smoothly, eyes flicking between Daniel and Ava. "Impressive. But survival is only the beginning. Choices must be made, and hearts tested. Ava's chest tightened. Every nerve in her body screamed to protect Daniel, to cling to him, as if he were the only thing keeping the darkness at bay. "We don't make choices in fear," she said, her voice steadier than she felt. "We make them together." Daniel stepped forward, placing himself between Ava and the intruder. "You've underestimated us. Love isn't a weakness, it's a force you can't control." The intruder smiled, a faint, unsettling curve of the lips. Love. So many underestimate it. So easily broken. Or manipulated. But you, too. You're fascinating. Vulnerable, yet defiant. It will be entertaining to see how far you'll go. Suddenly, the intruder lunged, not with brute force but with a calculated, almost hypnotic precision. Daniel instinctively moved, blocking Ava, and the two engaged in a tense struggle that was as much psychological as physical. Every movement, every glance was a dance between danger and desire. She wanted to scream, to run, but instead, she moved closer to Daniel, her hand brushing his chest, grounding them both. "We can't let them break us," she whispered, almost to herself. Daniel nodded, eyes never leaving the intruder, no matter what it takes. As the struggle intensified, secrets of the past began to surface. Hidden letters, photographs, and confessions spilled across the floor, revealing the intruder's connection to Daniel's family, past betrayals, and a web of lies that had ensnared them both for years. Ava's mind raced, piecing together the fragmented puzzle. Ava asked, her voice trembling with a mix of disbelief and hurt. Daniel's expression was one of regret and resolve. "I didn't know the full extent. But I knew there were shadows I couldn't face alone. That's why I needed you." The intruder, watching their exchange, seemed to revel in the tension. The bond. So strong, so reckless. But will it survive the final test? Ava stepped forward, determination blazing in her eyes. "If love is the test, we will pass. We're stronger than your games, stronger than your secrets." Daniel's lips brushed hers in a fleeting, electric kiss, a moment of affirmation and defiance. The intimacy of the gesture, amidst the danger, fueled their courage. Their hands tightened, a silent vow of unity. The intruder paused, as if evaluating them, before a low chuckle echoed through the warehouse. "Very well, then let's see how far your devotion can truly go." Suddenly, a series of hidden mechanisms activated, and the warehouse itself seemed to turn against them. Traps, cleverly concealed, sprang into action, crumbling floors, swinging beams, and sudden sparks of fire. Ava screamed, but Daniel held her close, maneuvering through the chaos with precision. Every step, every breath was a test of trust and synergy. In the midst of the chaos, Ava noticed a hidden door partially open. "Daniel, over there," she shouted. Together, they sprinted toward it, narrowly avoiding the collapsing ceiling. The intruder followed, moving with almost supernatural agility, their eyes locked on the couple with an intensity that sent chills down Ava's spine. Finally, they reached the door, a narrow passage leading to an exit bathed in moonlight. The outside world seemed distant, a stark contrast to the darkness they had just escaped. But the intruder wasn't done. They blocked the path, smirking. "You think love can save you?" The intruder taunted. "Let's see how far you're willing to go." Daniel stepped in front of Ava, his chest pressed against hers. "Love isn't just words, it's action. And I'll do anything to protect her." Ava looked into his eyes, seeing the depth of his commitment, the raw vulnerability, and the unwavering devotion. She pressed closer, their lips meeting in a passionate, desperate kiss. It wasn't just a kiss, it was a declaration, a promise, and a weapon. The intruder recoiled slightly, as if struck by the force of their bond. In that moment, the couple found a rhythm, a flow of movement and connection that allowed them to outmaneuver the intruder. Every touch, every glance, became both shield and sword, guiding them through the remaining dangers. Finally, with a combined effort, Daniel and Ava managed to subdue the intruder. Locking them in a room of the warehouse with chains and secured mechanisms. Breathing heavily, Daniel turned to Ava, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "It's over. For now." Ava leaned into him, tears streaming down her face, not from fear, but from relief and overwhelming emotion. I never want to be apart from you again," she whispered. Daniel's lips met hers once more, longer this time. A tender yet fiery kiss that seemed to seal every promise they had made throughout their journey. "You'll never have to be," he said softly. "Not ever." The couple stepped out into the night, the moonlight bathing them in silver glow. For the first time in hours, perhaps days, they could breathe, could feel, could be free. Their hearts still raced, but it was no longer from fear, was from love, passion, and triumph. As they walked, hand in hand, toward the city skyline, the camera or the voiceover could reflect on the journey. The secrets unearthed, the danger faced, the love tested, and the bond forged stronger than ever. Every moment of suspense, every emotional twist, every stolen glance of romance had led to this cathartic release. Ava looked at Daniel, her eyes shining. "No matter what comes next, we'll face it together." Daniel smiled, resting his forehead against hers. "Together, always." The act ends, the story ends with a panoramic view of the city lights flickering like stars, while their silhouettes stand united, a symbol of love conquering fear and passion outshining shadows. The audience is left emotionally fulfilled, romantically satisfied, and lingering with the suspense of what the future holds for Ava and Daniel, leaving room for imagination or a potential continuation. In a world of secrets and shadows, love is the light that guides us. And when hearts are true, no storm, no fear can ever tear them apart. Ava and Daniel proved it, together, forever.